All right, so South Africa's legal team that represented the country at the International Court of Justice has arrived at OR Tambo International Airport. Let's go live there now to Khayelihle Khumalo, who is at OR Tambo International Airport. Good morning to you, Khayelihle. Thanks indeed for your time. I guess we already heard from the team after its presentations, and that of Israel on the steps of the International Court of Justice. South Africa optimistic that what it advanced is enough to say that Israel had basically been involved in genocide with regard to the Gazan issue. We're expecting that sentiment to be shared once they arrive once again this morning.
Well, that's right, Criselda. The South African government has been very optimistic about a very comprehensive argument that they presented before the ICJ, but also very sharp legal minds, really, that represented the country, and talking about the genocidal intent in Gaza, but also talking about irreparable harm and many other issues as well. So there's a great deal of excitement here at OR Tambo International Airport as we keenly await for the team to go through the immigration process. But there are some South Africans who are here. In fact, I'm just going to speak to you, ma'am, to hear your just perspective. So you have been waiting here. Obviously, quite a number of South Africans really just watched with pride the developments at The Hague. Tell us about the importance. Why you're here today.
I'm here for many reasons. I was very proud of the case that they put together, the professionalism, and how they presented the facts before the court. I've been following this since 2014 from the previous Gaza war, and I've watched the apartheid system, I've watched the checkpoints, I've watched the killings without any repercussions, and when this war broke out, I was so heartbroken at the international community and the lack of response in preserving human life and civilians. And I was so proud of how South Africa stood up for justice and against oppression. And that's why I'm here to thank every single one of those members of that committee that stood up in front of the whole world to stand up for the people of Palestine.
And obviously the International Court of Justice is still deliberating on this particular matter. But what did you make of Israel's presentation as well? They were saying South Africa's argument is based on distortion, essentially saying that for them it's all about self-defense and stuff.
I felt it was flawed. I felt that the evidence wasn't presented. It was focused mainly on Hamas and not based on the civilian lives that were lost. And some facts I found didn't make sense at all. For example, the points about hospitals. Hospitals were bombed many times, and one of their points were that they went in, they dismantled military bases, and they left the hospitals, as if there's actual video footage of hospitals being bombed. Not just one, at least 10 to 15 hospitals that were bombed and destroyed. Yet, so some of the points I felt were not sensical at all, actually.
And just before I let you go, ma'am, obviously we're still waiting for the team. What would be your first reaction to them as soon as they come out of the international arrivals terminal?
I think on behalf of all South Africans to say thank you for your courage and your passion and the way that you put the facts together and stood before a world court and stood up for the people of Palestine.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much indeed for your time. So, Criselda, that's one of the South Africans who's here. So there's a very sense of gratitude in light of those proceedings that we saw at The Hague at the International Court of Justice. So we're keenly waiting for the team to come out. And of course, a very, very big team led, of course, by South Africa's former Deputy Chief Justice, Dikgang Moseneke. As you know, that with the ICJ, if you are a signatory to this particular court, then you do have an opportunity where you bring one of your judges. So everyone is still keenly waiting for that particular verdict from the ICJ.
Khayelihle Khumalo, thank you very much indeed. We'll cross back to you live once that team makes their way, of course, out of or arrives at the terminals there, of course, to be greeted by many of the supporters there for the work that they've done at the International Court of Justice. We'll cross back to you, hopefully, once they make their way through there.